And welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who would never remove his shirt and leave mid-podcasting. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing better today. Doing pretty good, though, overall. Good day. How are you doing?
Yes, what do you mean you're doing better today?
Well, so I had this elaborate plan. I bought
Mm-hmm.
some champagne for New Year's Eve, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
some Wild Turkey 101 proof whiskey. Um,
Okay.
and I was all set up to come on here and celebrate Patriots clinching a playoff berth with whatever was left of the champagne and
Mm-hmm.
make a big meal out of it with that and the whiskey. Well, New Year's Eve, I drank the whole bottle of 101 proof whiskey and whatever was left from the champagne. And I had nothing to celebrate with, and I barely got out of bed yesterday. Here I
Oh
am.
my God. Kyle, are you all right?
I am good. I'm good now. I am rejuvenated. I'm a new man.
All right. Well, Kyle, partying hard. A lot of reasons for teams to party hard. Kyle, how's that for a transition? Starting off with the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if we want to go there yet, but the transition was just so good. I had to go with it.
Yeah, it works for me. Let's go ahead and go there. Sunday Night Football. The Packers did exactly what we expected to against the Minnesota Vikings with Sean Mannion in at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon State legend, also known for being very tall. He's 6'6", but his height had nothing to do with this game because he looked like a backup quarterback out there, and the Packers dominated this game. They still look like the best team in football to me. Not really taking a whole lot out of this game. I still thought they looked good. The defense still gave up some plays, but at the same time, like, there was no chance.
Yeah, I like some of the comments of Connor saying, "Oh my God, Kyle." Luke Brown said, "Someone get Kyle a liver ASAP." Yeah, I mean, no, this was. I think it's kind of funny actually that the plan of this for Minnesota was okay. Well, we're going to run the ball well. This is going to be a heavy ground game. This is exactly what we built our team around. Is the ground game. This is the one time where it makes sense to have a bad quarterback. And Dalvin Cook had 1.4 yards per carry in his 9 carries. So like that didn't work out exactly as planned. I think to me, the biggest topic of discussion about this game, and the reason why we're talking about this one first is because we always do this Sunday night game first, is basically just what the hell? Why did we not see Kellen Mond in this? Why did we see Sean Mannion in this? I feel bad for him because he's going to get a lot of criticism. Threw his first NFL touchdown, good for him. But I mean, with all due respect, like this is just not the situation he should have been in, not the role he should have been in. And I don't know who you want to blame. If you want to blame Kirk Cousins, you can do that. If you want to blame Mike Zimmer, you can do that. But the reality is Minnesota maybe had a chance in this one. I know the final score won't say that, but it felt like at least early on they had a chance in this one. And they just weren't able to get anything going.
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't think Sean Mannion sucked in this game by any means. I thought he was okay, but he looked like a backup quarterback. And, I feel like if you're going to play a guy who's basically been a backup since the St. Louis Rams were in existence, you basically know what you got out of that player. And yes, you could say, oh, it's a safe option. We're competing for a playoff spot. But you're basically getting a guy who's going to throw 5 yards per attempt, as he did in this game, and not overly efficient. Like, why wouldn't you just say, hey, Mon might kind of be the wild card here. If Mannion's playing, maybe we compete a little bit, but there's no way we're winning this game. Why wouldn't you just throw Mon out there and say, hey, this is kind of a wild card. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, and I also kind of feel like it's like, well, are you going to win this game with like okay backup quarterback play? Like probably not. Like you're probably going to have more than that. And maybe they just felt, okay, it's a long shot either way. This gives us the 5% chance instead of the 3% chance with Mon. Maybe they don't like what Mon has done. He did nearly throw an interception in the couple of snaps he got. So that was an aspect as well. Just kind of weird stuff. And it's a very Vikings way to end the season. Almost reminds me a little bit of the Eagles' final game last year where they had another kind of weird quarterback decision that, it didn't really matter, but it was just kind of another one of those, like, just, kind of putting a bow on the end of the Mike Zimmer era, I would assume.
Yeah, my two favorite parts about this game were the Mon series, which after the 3 plays, Chris Collinsworth decided to say that, like all rookie quarterbacks, he's got a long way to go. After 3 plays, he decided because he almost
were like just like screens.
Yeah, because one throw was almost intercepted. He's got a long way to go after 3 plays. And then the second best part of this game was that horrific Apple Watch commercial We're
Yeah.
getting these 911 calls and from these people like out at sea trapped under their cars, all this stuff. And apparently they managed to find their phone because of their Apple Watch, and their Apple Watch basically saved their life. And that's what we had to listen to on a commercial break of this game, is that Apple Watch saves lives.
Yeah, well, isn't that like similar like the life alert commercials from back in the day? Like I help my phone and I can't get up, but luckily I have my Apple Watch.
Yeah, but like Life Alert's at least humorous. Like this was
Uh,
just saying like everyone's on the brink of death if they don't own an Apple Watch. Honestly,
yeah,
this is what it felt like.
yeah.
I thought it was pretty funny though.
No, it was definitely it's definitely an odd thing. I was watching some of the other games to talk about while I had the other game on, and I was kind of just use a commercial to kind of tune it out. But for that one, I was just kind of wait, what's going on here? That was fantastic. You're right. That was the best thing about this game. No, the real best thing about this game was Garrett Bradbury having the longest reception. I believe it was the longest reception of the game. Maybe not actually, but at the time it was the longest reception of the game. That was fun.
Yeah, KJ Osborne ended up taking that away from him, but
Right.
pretty good reception overall.
Hmm.
And Osborne's catch was pretty great too. So
Hmm.
you know, Mike Zimmer's going to get fired. This was it for the Vikings. Tough situation without Cousins in this game, but they had plenty of opportunities to win games this year that could have put them in the playoffs. This is not breaking their season.
Yeah, for the Packers, we're in an interesting situation. They've clinched the 1 seed, third straight year. They go 13-3. Although this year they have another game to play after this. What do we take away from? Is there anything we can take away from this one? I mean, Devontae Adams was incredible once again. We expect that from him. Aaron Rodgers. I was kind of wondering. It's weird. I looked up the data on this because Aaron Rodgers seems like he's the front runner for MVP, despite the fact that he's not even going to have 4,000 yards on this season if they don't play next week. Like, if the fact that they don't play for 2 weeks, is there a weird scenario where Rodgers kind of plays his way out of the MVP discussion because he is now going to miss potentially a second week if they decide to bench him?
I mean, I guess if there's just people looking at the numbers and then going off of that, maybe.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I feel like if you watch the season, you said Rodgers has been the best player this year, right? Like, to
I don't
me,
think
there's
so.
no
I don't
more.
think. I think you could argue Josh Allen. I think that you could argue Tom Brady. I would probably pick Rodgers, but I don't think it's like clear head and shoulders.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, Allen has had, I think, more stinkers than Rodgers this year, who basically has been perfect since week one.
Like, I mean, he had. I don't know if that's what does Rodgers. What has Allen had? He's had the Jaguars game. Let me look up his.
I
I'll
mean,
look up his numbers.
I know not all of it was his fault, but he had 3 picks today. Um,
Yeah,
you
but I
know,
mean, he didn't really have a bad game. I mean, listen, I know the passer rating was 17, but I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was more of the outs. And I guess that's the argument between like Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers, right? Is Josh Allen just in a much worse situation than Aaron Rodgers is in?
yeah. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has had what, 2 interceptions since week one?
Sure. No, Aaron. I mean, again, like I'm saying, I think Aaron Rodgers would be my pick. I'm just saying, I think you can make an argument for Josh Allen. I think you can make an argument for Tom Brady. If you say like, hey, Brady's just throwing the ball more, that's more value. I think you could argue that. You could argue Mahomes. Mahomes has been great. I think there's guys you could argue.
Is
Although
Burrow
again,
in the top 5 conversation now?
sure, yeah, absolutely. That's my thing. I think this is a very wide open year. I don't think it's again. Rodgers missed 2 games. He still had some bad games on his schedule, but again, you can say that about everybody. So that's why he's still my pick.
Yeah, I think he's my pick too. Like, I think I'm
Mhm.
ready to basically lock it up. Um, I mean, I get the stuff for the Taylor and Cup, but I just don't think it's enough. So I'd probably
Mhm.
go with him. But yeah, I mean, I guess if he doesn't play again and then like Brady goes off next week, I think it's a possibility.
Well, that's
But
the thing too. I mean, Brady's going to end up with like what 1,300 more yards than Rodgers is this season. People look at that stuff.
I mean, his numbers are going to be ridiculous, and I think that's
Hmm.
the argument. Is that okay? Maybe you say game to game Rodgers was better, but Brady's numbers, like, there's going to be a point where maybe it's too much to overcome. But I just think Rodgers was a better quarterback this year.
Yeah, again, I don't know if I totally disagree. I think it's close. Like again, I think Brady's turnover worthy play rate is I don't know it now, but at least at the time it was better than Rodgers' was as well. So the turnovers I think are going to hurt Brady in terms of like how much he has on the schedule on his stat sheet, even though it's not really his fault. But then again, you could argue getting to throw the ball so many times helps him, so it goes both ways. Crazy how we're still having this discussion, week after week here, even with a game to go. I guess that's my last question before we go on to another game. Do you like the fact? Would you like the Packers sitting their starters, or do you think they should play, or maybe like play for a half?
Well, the interesting thing I was thinking about is because now they got the 1 seed, so they're definitely off the first round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not to mention that there's this there's this looming thought about the Packers and these returning guys when it comes to like David Bakhtiari. I still haven't heard anything like definitive about Jair Alexander, right?
I
Or
believe
is
it
it
got put
Darius
on the
Smith?
COVID. I believe what I heard is it got put on. He was maybe going to play today, and then got put on the COVID list.
So are you basically going to play Bakhtiari and Alexander their first games in the NFC? The what's it called? The divisional round of the NFC playoffs. Like
Right.
that seems incredibly risky. Like maybe you play them out there and put them on a snap count, and then basically yank them after that. I don't know. It seems crazy not to play them at all, and then basically say, especially those two guys, hey, welcome back
Mm-hmm.
to the league. Here's the divisional round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at the history and the teams that tend to get upset in the divisional round, as with a bye week, tend to be the ones who rest their starters the last game of the season. There's a big correlation in that. You don't want to take 2 weeks off in a row. You just you get out of football shape with that amount of time. I think it's kind of different when it's just 1 week. You can make the argument either way. But numbers back it up, and I think logic backs it up. So I'm with you. I think give him at least some playing time. Let's
Yeah.
move on. Speaking of playing time, Antonio Brown will not be getting much for the rest of his career, assuming his career is done. I mean, this was a crazy game, but the craziest story of it has to be, one of the all-time great wide receivers just quitting in the middle of the game and the middle of the third quarter and just walking off literally during play. He walked onto the field during a play to get off the field is no longer a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this.
Um, yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, uh, I think you said this right though. It kind of has to be put into perspective. Like this guy, like might go down as one of the 15 best receivers ever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and like the last like 3 years of his career have kind of felt like a sideshow. And I know he had that
Mm-hmm.
whole thing with the media midweek where he was saying that he's being like targeted and all that, and it's like I mean, he has done plenty to create the drama himself and lead it on to himself. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing I want to say. But at the same time, it's like I've seen the arguments for, potential CTE based on past hits or, the mental health aspect of Antonio Brown between all after all this. But we're speculating, this is all speculation. Like nobody actually knows if he's, mentally stable, mentally unstable. And then if it is that kind of situation, I think he and the Buccaneers had a lot more responsibility to make sure he's not on the field if he's not mentally prepared to play football games. And to me, I watched this and it just seemed like the dude doesn't really care about playing football to me. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I always get uncomfortable when we're talking about like the CTE and all that stuff because we just don't know. None of us are
yeah,
doctors. None of us have been inside Antonio Brown's head. We don't know what's going on there. A lot of people bring up like, oh, Devontae's perfect hit. That's what did it. Like that's just you're right. It's speculation. You're exactly right. And so I never like to speculate on this stuff. It's who knows what is going on in Antonio Brown's head. It's just on one hand, it could be a very sad thing. On the other hand, he still is doing stuff he shouldn't be doing, which is a very common occurrence for him. It seemed like he was kind of in check. 5 weeks ago we were saying, "Hey, Antonio Brown has been without a scandal in Tampa Bay." Now, I mean, another two big notches on the very long list of things he's done. And you're right, he could have been one of the best receivers ever. I mean, he's currently 25th all time in receiving yards, and he was only about 4,000 away from third. So there was a lot of
yeah.
ground he could have made up had he not missed so much time from just the off the field stuff, or in this case, walking off the field stuff.
Yeah. And then, so there's that aspect. And at the end of the day, we just don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I think the only person who actually knows is Antonio Brown. And Antonio
Yeah.
Brown has to make that decision for him. Um, as far as the on the field theories of why this went down, I also don't think those make a ton of sense either.
Right. We're
Because
missing something. Yeah.
so yeah, because the quick theory that everyone came up with was he ended up like if you added up like if he had 5 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown to end that game and next week. He had this game and next week to get those incentives. He ends up with like $1 million of bonuses between those 3, bonus incentives. And apparently people were saying the theory was that they were going to bench him so he doesn't hit those incentives, which doesn't make sense because I believe it was last year they basically gave him 3 free receptions so that he hit his bonus last year.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now that he's getting, $333,000 off it, it's a problem. I don't see that as necessarily a solution. And not to mention, they're trying to win this football game. They're behind against the New York Jets and trying to win. I don't think taking your second best receiver out of the game for that reason makes a ton of sense. So I don't see a lot of that situation. It just seemed like a really crazy situation. And I mean, he made his decision. That's basically what he's going to have to live with.
Yeah, it's weird because we only have sources, but the sources can always be on and off here. But yeah, I think one thing that was brought up as well is Jay Glazer, who obviously when he said something, you kind of believe it. He said that he talked to Bruce Arians, and Bruce Arians said that he was actually, at the time that this all blew up, he was then trying to get Antonio Brown back into the game, and Brown refused to get back into the game, and that's when the blow-up happened. That's when Mike Evans tried to console him, and we all saw it from there. But again, was that because he wasn't getting touches? What we knew going into the game was that Antonio Brown and Mike Evans were on snap counts. They were not going to be getting, they weren't going to be playing entirely because Brown had an ankle thing and Mike Evans had an injury of his own. So maybe my best guess, and this is just a guess, is that Brown wanted more touches. He also was open a couple times and didn't get the ball. And then that kind of, boiled over a little bit. And maybe Bruce Arians said something that Brown didn't like. And again, we're totally speculating here. There's something that I feel like that we missed in all of this, but just very bizarre thing.
Very bizarre. Let's get to the football aspect because this was a pretty interesting game, came down to the wire. Where do you want to start? Do you want to talk with your boy Zach Wilson or your team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Which side do you want first?
Let's start with the Buccaneers. Again, I do have some concerns about how this team can go now without Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin. How far can this team fly without those two guys? That's concerning, especially when Mike Evans, I didn't think looked 100% in this game, which granted, when is Mike Evans 100%? He's always playing through something. But that being said, I'm happy we won. This was very exciting. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've been shouting joy at the TV like I was when the Cyril Grayson touchdown happened to give us the lead. That was an absolute blast. And the reality is, okay, this team isn't what it was, on paper heading into this season, but you still have Tom Brady. And Tom Brady was this was a classic Tom Brady performance. Yeah, it was the Jets, but it's not like guys were getting open. Like, he was making the plays. And that final drive, 93 yards with under 2 minutes, no timeouts left. Him not spiking the ball several times, I'm assuming just so the Jets couldn't reset. Just incredible stuff by your quarterback in mind, Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, that was a throwback performance from him at the end. I did, it was a good second half from Gronk. It was a really nice last drive from Cyril Grayson. And I even think Le'Veon Bell out of the backfield and showing some blocking stuff too. Did a pretty nice job in the backfield for Tampa Bay. I don't think he's going to run a whole lot with this team, but I think he can at least do that. And that's something they have going forward. Yeah, I mean, it was a good second half, a porous first half, obviously. Braxton Berrios seemed like he was open the entire first half. I guess the question, like you said with Tampa, not even just the receivers, but I mean, this team, and it takes luck to win a Super Bowl. I think everyone can acknowledge that. This team had a lot of injury luck last season and was healthy at the perfect time, basically. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be healthy at the right time this season. So I guess that's the question you have with Tampa Bay going forward. They still look pretty good, though, when everything's clicking, as they were in the last quarter of this game. So you can't feel too bad, but I do think there are questions going forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they had their injuries last year as well. Against Washington, they didn't have Vita Vea until the conference championship game. They didn't have Devin White versus Washington. They didn't have Antonio Brown versus New Orleans or versus Green Bay. So, but there was no one injury they were without for the whole season, and they were, with everyone except for their right guard Alex Kappa in the Super Bowl. So yeah, the injury luck's a part of the game. You don't win a Super Bowl without getting a little lucky, and that's what's happened here. One last thing about the Bucs before we get to the Jets. How's Grayson here coming out and was best known for getting hit in the head with a football, trying to catch it, is now guy who's able to bounce back, beat a hero. That's a cool story. But yeah, let's get into the Jets side of things. Kyle, people are asking to update the Jets quarterback rankings chart after Zach Wilson had maybe not his best day, but he ran the offense as well as I've seen him do. The Titans game, he had those crazy plays, but this was maybe the best, just being a quarterback running an offense game he's had.
Yeah, so obviously Zach Wilson, after the last 2 weeks, has to take over the number 1 spot. You're probably going to see Joe Flacco come in at number 2. Josh Johnson's no longer on the team, so he's off the list.
Okay.
And then, unfortunately, that means Mike White is coming in at number 3. And it was a really good performance from Zach Wilson in this game. Like you said, I thought he was really good with his timing stuff. I thought he did a really good job this week and last week, taking what the defense gives him. Like we were talking about, some of the stuff he needs to develop. I think he's got a really nice rapport with Berrios, and if they get some receivers back next year and also maybe add a couple players, I think that's a really nice receiving core developing quickly. The one thing that I probably am knocking the Jets on in this game was deciding to go for a QB sneak against the Buccaneers defensive line on 4th and 2 without your starting center.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, that's a bad play call. We'll go ahead and just say that's a bad play call.
Yeah, that made no sense. I usually feel like when people say, oh, I like going for it, but just I don't like the play call, I feel like it's usually an excuse to say you don't like going for it, but you don't want to actually say that because you don't want to start a war with analytics people. No, this was actually the scenario where it's like, what was that play call? Made no sense. But hey, for the Jets, this is what you want. Young players looking good, and you're losing to get the better draft pick. It's all working out perfectly.
He's he's shown us something the last couple of weeks. I think that even, everyone on this offense, I think, has shown a little bit of something. Michael Carter's looks like he's going to be a guy on this team too. And I mentioned Berrios, Elijah Moore had some nice games earlier this year. I think that, I think the Jets can look at the end of the season and say we're optimistic, even though we only won 4 games. I think you should definitely feel comfortable about this team.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Kyle, this is probably going to be a marathon show, I think. I mean, we got a lot to talk about. We might need to strap in for this one.
I am ready. I am strapped in, as you said.
Okay. Well, what I want to do before I get too much further, I meant to do this at the beginning of the show and forgot. Let's talk about just the playoff picture and what we have now. Let's break that down. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Go ahead and pull it up. Let's start with the. I guess just start with the NFC.
Yeah, I'll start the NFC because that's the easiest stuff. Where again, we can still hear us. We're still here. We're just behind a little thing here. So if you listen to the audio only, we'll explain it. But we have the graphic on the screen for the YouTube audience. But so it's pretty simple. NFC, there's 2 teams that could get the last spot. If the 49ers win, they're in. If the Saints lose, the 49ers are in. The Saints need to win, and they need the 49ers to lose. And this is relatively possible, actually, largely given the fact that for the Saints, you play the Falcons and then the 49ers play the Rams. So there's a good chance that happens. We don't need to break that down too much. Let's go to the AFC now, because this is where things get tricky. Because if the Colts win against Jacksonville, it's very simple, in fact, because all that means is Colts win and they get in, and then the winner of the Chargers-Raiders game is the other wildcard team. Simple. So, Kyle, so far so good, right? Makes sense?
Makes sense there. I'm feeling pretty good about Indianapolis being able to beat Jacksonville next week.
Yeah, and I hope they do, because if they don't complete, all hell breaks loose with the thing. So here's the thing. When I have a paragraph, if the Colts lose. So here's the best way. I went through 7 different times trying to figure out the best way to explain this for the podcast. So first, the Steelers are in the driver's seat if the Colts lose, kind of, because if they win out, then they're into the playoffs. Although they have to win 2 games, that seems unlikely. So if that doesn't happen, then the Ravens could get in with the Colts loss, the Steelers losing one of their games. And if the Ravens win their Week 18 game and the Chargers lose, then the Ravens are in. Okay, with me so far, Kyle?
I'm with you so far.
All right. Then where we get to is for the Raiders and Chargers, they're both in if the Chargers win. If the Raiders win that game, then it's the Raiders and Colts who are in. So there is kind of a chance that the Raiders get in with a loss, but that seems unlikely. So got it. We're all on the same page.
So Cleveland winning tomorrow has no shot at making the playoffs?
Cleveland's done. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. A few teams got eliminated once the Chargers won.
Okay. I'm with it now. Gotcha.
Yeah. So again, the Ravens have a very, technically not out of it yet, but they need a lot to go their way for it to happen. The most realistic scenario is the Colts win against Jacksonville. They're in, and then just the Raiders, Chargers, which I'm not sure if it's been announced yet. I have to imagine will be the Sunday Night Football game. That's who goes in.
All right. I'm with it now. Where do we want to go next?
Let's go to Kyle, your big prediction. You had two bold predictions. We'll save the other one for later because that one didn't go too well. But the Chiefs, Bengals, Kyle, why the hell did Kansas City not start double teaming Jamar Chase?
Literally the entire game. He's just running down the sideline with he had 290 receiving yards basically on this team. How many did he end up with? It was
266.
266. He had
and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had 200 receiving yards on this team in the fourth quarter, and it's still man-on-man coverage. Poor Ward on the outside has no chance at all. Now, granted, I actually didn't think when they were on man-to-man coverage, outside of a couple blown assignments, I didn't think it was terrible from start to finish. I actually think him and Fenton did some good stuff. But it's just Chase has the size, the length, the verticality. He had everything on them to just catch the ball every time. He made 5 incredible catches on the sideline, I felt in this game. And this was after it seemed like the Chiefs are going to run him out of the building in the first 10 minutes of the game. They're up 14-0 before you could even blink. And they lost this game because they fell apart in the second half. They stopped doing things offensively. And then Jamar Chase took over and was the best offensive player in this game in the second half.
Yeah, and that's saying something. I mean, listen, Joe Burrow also had 446 yards and 4 touchdowns of his own. A good chunk of that was thrown to Jamar Chase. I saw that the EPA per play aspect, Jamar Chase had 25 estimated points added when he was targeted. I mean, that's just an absurdly high number for a wide receiver or for a quarterback to have, let alone a wide receiver. Just an insane game that he had. And Mahomes was really good too. Both of these quarterbacks were awesome in this one. But when it came down to it, one team had the guy who they correctly picked over Penei Sewell.
Yeah, but I mean, the Chiefs ended up with 3 points in the second half of this game.
Yeah, that's true. I thought there was Tyreek, or was it Tyreek Hill who dropped that long one at a certain point? So there was also stuff on the board. Still, I mean, and part of it was not a ton of possessions in the second half. But I guess that's fair. But I don't know. I have a hard time blaming Mahomes for this one.
No, I don't whatsoever. Because, I mean, I thought they were fine. I didn't think in the second half they were as good. But, I mean, when you're going to put up that many points in the first half,
right.
You can't blame the offense in this game. The defense made no adjustments. And I thought the big thing with Cincinnati was it seemed like every time they went down to a single high safety in the first half, they just got torched for 40 yards. The first touchdown was a 30-yard touchdown. They got killed on it. It happened a couple other times in this game. The safety came down and bit on the play, and they got torched for a big play. And then they're just hey, let's stop doing that.
Right.
And then the Chiefs looked at this game and said, hey, Jamar Chase is destroying us. We'll get a win eventually. We'll get a stop eventually.
Exactly.
And they didn't get a stop eventually. Adjustments win games. And I think defenses, we're continuing to see this more and more. Defenses who are willing to be malleable and adjust win football games. Defenses who continue to just say, this is what we do, we're going to do it better than the offense, lose.
Yeah. Is it time that we start criticizing the Chiefs pretty severely for their inability to seemingly make any in-game adjustments whatsoever? I mean, the Super Bowl was the prime example of that, right? Where they just kept trying to get this down to field stuff, no matter, it just wasn't working. They just kept sticking with it. Do we start criticizing Kansas City for their lack of adjustments?
Maybe, but if they're in the Super Bowl again, I'm not going to be surprised.
They're a great team. There's no denying that.
And then, of course, there's the idea of possibly that, maybe they don't want to show anything to this team in case they have to play them later in the postseason. I don't necessarily believe that one. That's just probably some theory someone's going to pitch out. Nick Wright might say that tomorrow, honestly.
Are
So, yeah.
you a big Nick Wright guy? You're
I'm not
constantly
a big
tuning in?
hot take business guy. I don't watch sports TV anymore. I'll be honest.
Okay.
Like outside of pregame and postgame shows, I'm out. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm sure all the that one time when I made a joke about Colin Cowherd and everyone in the chat got mad at me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. That's funny. Um,
Yeah. But no, going back to talking about football again, I agree. I mean, listen, obviously Kansas City desperately wanted to win this game because now looks like they're not going to get the 1 seed. This was a big loss for them. I have a question for you, Kyle.
yeah.
Has Jamar Chase taken the offensive player of the year, offensive rookie of the year award away from your guy Mac Jones with this game?
Um, like, listen, I want Mac Jones to win for biased reasons,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like if I said this for Justin Jefferson over Justin Herbert last year, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm being consistent, Jamar Chase should easily win Offensive Rookie of the Year because Mac Jones hasn't been as good as Justin Herbert last year.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and Jamar Chase has been better than Justin Jefferson this year. So
Right.
for biased reasons, I want Mac Jones to win, but I can't be mad at Jamar Chase. Like he's legitimately a top 5 receiver in the. I know we joke about this that every
Mm-hmm.
receiver is a top 10 receiver in the NFL if they're good.
Uh-huh.
He might legitimately be a top 5 guy in the league right now, and it's his first year. Like
Yeah.
he's played 16 NFL games, and he's already one of the best ever. So I can't even get mad. I can't even get mad about it if he wins. He probably should win. And like I said, if I'm keeping it consistent and said, hey, Jefferson should have won it last year, then absolutely Chase should win it this year.
Yeah. I mean, well, I totally get that logic. I guess I'm always just confused at what's the logic that these voters use, and I still don't fully get it. Because, like, I still go back to why did Ezekiel Elliott not win it over Dak Prescott when Elliott was probably the best running back in football that year, and Dak Prescott was like, a very Mac Jones type rookie season. So that's where I kind of always go back to. What's the criteria?
Um, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's picking the best quarterback, just like the MVP. It seems like sometimes.
I
So
guess so.
I mean, if that's the case, then Mac Jones probably wins. But I mean, even I can't. I mean, I can't say Mac Jones has been a better player than Jamar Chase this year. It's just not true.
Hmm.
I think Mac Jones has been by far the best rookie quarterback this year, but he's not better than Jamar Chase right now. So I think he should win it. It remains to be seen if he will, though. I
You
think
think
he will, though.
you think he's been better than Zach Wilson?
Yes.
Mac Jones? I don't know. Might be a hot take. How Zach Wilson played today.
Start to finish, I'll take Mac Jones this season.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Obviously, I'm kidding. Yeah, Bengals winning the AFC North. Good for them. Let's move on. Let's go to. I want to kind of transition to this game because I feel like it ties in well. Because the Titans now. Here's what I'm going to start off with, and we'll get into it. I know we have some victory laps about the Miami Mammals, but let's hold that for a second. Because my question here is: are the Titans favorites to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC? They'll have the 1 seed. They should have Derrick Henry back. This is looking good for Tennessee.
It's looking very good. I think this is a
Mm-hmm.
really good team. This
Yeah.
defense and coverage unit has been very good. They've developed this pass rush seemingly out of nowhere with this team too. I mean, they did get Bud Dupree in the offseason, but overall, like this was definitely the pass rush was nothing last year. And we were like
Mm-hmm.
waiting for Jadeveon Clowney to make an impact for this team, and he did.
Right.
And it's like all of a sudden Bud Dupree is the difference to this team being pretty good in the pass rush. And the coverage has been good, like I said. And I give them a ton of credit for this, this team this season because, this is the kind of team where it's like built around a tier 1 running back, like you said. If it gets injured, things kind of go south. It did in Carolina when McCaffrey went down.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of just stuck to their identity. And Dante Foreman's pretty good. He was
Mm-hmm.
pretty good again in this game, had a couple big plays. He kind of fits the mold of what they want to do too, and it worked. This is a really good team. I don't know if I'm putting it as Super Bowl favorites out of the AFC, but they're damn good, and they definitely deserve the 1 seed.
Yeah, and part of what I'm saying is I'm including the advantage you get from getting a bye week because that is a big advantage. So that's included there. Also, super chat, the great overlap 618 back in the chat. Red alert, boys. DefCon level 5. At the same time, AB took off his clothes. Jackson might as well have burnt the penguin suit. Ain't no way we winning without AB. Sound of freaking horn. DefCon level 5. Yes, overlap 618. Very disappointed about the lack of a potential penguin suit with no more Antonio Brown, which of course I said I would wear a penguin suit if the Bucs win the Super Bowl this year. Back to this game. Sorry, getting sidetracked. Another thing Tennessee does really well is they cover well. And, we're going to, Tua's getting a lot of blame. He deserves it. He wasn't great in this one. But also, a big part of it was this Titans defense is good. Like, this is a team that can run the ball really well. They can play really good defense, and they still have Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown. And I'm still holding out hope that maybe at some point Julio Jones will be something. Probably not. But there's a lot of stuff to like about this team. There really is.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it's amazing that this team basically went from Kevin Byard and like 8 defensive players with a plucky attitude to like literally 11 good defensive starters.
Yeah,
and it's everyone seems to do their job really well. And like I said, it just seems to kind of it seems to kind of work for them. And they're fast to the football. They cover seemingly everywhere. I like a lot about this team. I feel pretty good about them. I think that they're going to make a run. I don't know if it's going to be Super Bowl good, but it's a very good team. And I think they're going to be a tough out for anyone.
Yeah, should be fascinating. And again, especially because, again, that 1 seed can't be overstated. You get the bye week, you get to be healthy, you get to play the weakest matchups. So you hope for some, not great wild card team, although I'm not sure if there is one of those in the AFC to, win. They are the ones who you play. Let's go to, speaking of not great wild card contending teams, let's talk about the Miami Dolphins here. Listen, there was a lot of issues with this Dolphins team. The offense was just, maybe they did what they could with their bad offensive line and kind of finally caught up with them. I think that's fair to say, but I also think it's fair to say that there was also Tua missed a lot of throws in this one, and that's concerning because Tua's had now 3 straight really bad football games.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be mean on this, but it's I mean, there were a lot of throws that weren't attributed to a bad offensive line. It was him either sailing the ball or underthrowing the ball. I don't know what they keep doing, but it seems like every time I watch them play, he rolls out to his right, even though I thought a thrower would like to be, going with his arm. But he rolls out right, and then his throws are always high or wide or something like that. This definitely isn't all on Tua, but I think he definitely didn't put him in a position to win, that's for sure. And he wasn't one of the better quarterbacks I saw today. I don't know, where are you at with the future of Tua in the NFL? Is this guy?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, is this guy going to need basically a above average offensive line to good offensive line? I think he has good pass catchers. I think Mike Gesicki's probably a top 6 or 7 tight end in the league. I think Jalen Waddle is one of the better rookie wide receivers in the league. I think Devontae Parker's a really nice second option. I think he's got pass catchers. He doesn't have a running game, and he doesn't have an offensive line. Is this guy going to need the perfect situation to be a good quarterback in the league? And can he get that with this team?
Well, yeah, I guess my answer is I think yes, because you're still not paying him that much. You're still on a rookie deal. So let's try to see if we can build the offensive line and see if we can get something for Tua right now. Because there is still a lot of stuff to like about Tua. And Tua's had a bad past 3 weeks. Tua's also had a really good 4-game stretch in the middle of there. I didn't think it was great against Baltimore actually, but he had a really good decent stretch during that one streak as well. So there's stuff to like about Tua. I'm not a get rid of Tua guy. No, keep him, improve the offensive line, and allow the team to be better. You can win with a quarterback who is not the best if you're not paying him superstar money, which they won't be paying him next year. So there's stuff to like about Tua for sure. And it should be mentioned, the conditions were bad in this one. It was raining. And listen, at some point, you got to still find a way to hit receivers, even if it's raining. But that might have played a role. I mean, he missed a couple of one play, he literally the ball slipped out of his hands when he was trying to throw it. So it went backwards, and that was a fumble. So there was external stuff at play. And again, the offensive line is horrible. So yeah. I think both can be true. I think Tua can have played really bad these past few weeks. And also they should keep Tua and build around him, because we also don't know what we can get out of Tua unless we see him with a good offensive line.
Yeah. He could have had 3 interceptions in this game. I mean, he threw one literally right to the safety, and the safety is literally on a knee like this, and it goes through his hands. I couldn't explain the play. It didn't make sense to me. But yeah, I mean, he was bad, but we'll see what happens with him going forward. I definitely think he has some things he needs to improve upon. I don't know what he's great at, but at the same time, um, I mean, this Dolphins team had a nice run. The schedule was favorable for it, and
Mhm.
I think it's a probably below average football team that had a nice schedule.
Yeah, I think I agree. Let's move on. Let's go to this one now. Raiders, Colts. How
Huge
about
win.
the Raiders finding a way to? I mean, yeah, I guess what we saw a lot of crazy stuff from this one. Marcus Mariota had a couple of key runs in this one. Derek Carr with a fourth down play to Hunter Renfrow, who's like apparently the best receiver in football. He had a monster day in this one. Zay Jones had a monster statistical day with 120 yards of his own. Derek Carr did throw, the ball to the other team twice, but I thought again, not in the best situation, finding a way to win this football game, and also all those people posting the stats of Jonathan Taylor when he rushes over 100 yards, they win. 108 yards for Jonathan Taylor in a loss here, so that streak is ruined. On top of all of this,
Yeah, I mean, the defense came out guns blazing. I was really impressed with this defense
mm-hmm.
early in this game. It seemed like Derek Carr was trying to throw the Colts back into this at one point. And it wasn't even like I thought Carr had a bad game. He just had like a 6-minute stretch that I wish he probably wishes he could forget.
Yeah,
And then outside of that, I thought he was pretty good. And then in the fourth quarter, got them down in position to win. Um, Him and Renfro are just dynamic, man. They figured it out.
yeah,
They've been with this whole situation with Henry Ruggs obviously was a big part. John Gruden right after that, and then Darren Waller basically not playing the second half of the season. The Raiders are right back into it with a chance to still make the playoffs despite all of this. Who knew the only way to cure the Raiders' second half of the season woes was to just let John Gruden go midway through the season, or let him quit
yeah.
midway through the season, and then they'll make the playoffs. This is galaxy brain level thinking from what's the Davis brother who's in charge now?
Mark Davis, yeah.
Mark Davis, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Galaxy level thinking here to get this done. And this team covers well. I was impressed with this team. I thought they covered really well in this game. I thought they did a good job of setting on the Colts. Good performance from them. I was impressed.
Yeah, and we got early on because you gave me this game early in our preview show. I picked the Raiders as one of my favorite bets of the week because we both kind of felt like schematically this was a good matchup for Las Vegas. They like to play the coverage that most teams just get forced into playing when they play the Colts. So on defense, so that just worked out well for Las Vegas. And so again, is there a ceiling on this Raiders football team? Yeah, there is. But like they're playing the Chargers next week. That doesn't feel like it's too much of an uphill battle. It really, I almost feel like this was just as impressive as it would be to beat the Chargers next week. So for the Raiders, there's a lot to get excited about if you're a Raiders fan. And even one thing you didn't even mention was like the Damon Arnett thing. He got cut as well. Like there's been so many external stuff, and the fact that they are still not just like last year they were technically in the playoff race the last week of the season, but like they need like 4 things to go their way, similar like how Baltimore is this year. This year they're legitimately, I mean, they're just playing a playoff game basically on week 18.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy that they're in this position after all this. I didn't think too much about the Arnett thing, but
Well, yeah, but I mean, again, just another aspect there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that they're in this position, and now they get potentially Waller back. It seems like for this game against the Chargers too. So,
Yeah.
And the other part of this too is I think the last couple weeks, I mean, his numbers don't jump off the page here. I think Josh Jacobs has been tremendous this last couple weeks for this team, churning out yards when they really need it, running like a man with a lot of mouths to feed. No, he's the new Phillip Rivers of the NFL. Everyone, Josh Jacobs here to stay. But no, it was a good win, and they were able to hold it off. Let's go to the other side. Is Carson Wentz good enough to like win a playoff game?
He's good enough to win a playoff game. Is he good enough to go on a run and win a Super Bowl? I don't know. Maybe you need to have Nick Foles as the backup for that to happen. I mean, he wasn't good enough in this one. That's certainly worth mentioning. I mean, he got totally bailed out with what probably should have been an interception, ended up getting bounced up and being a touchdown. That was a 45-yard touchdown. If that gets taken away, Carson Wentz ends up with 100. If that's an interception instead, Carson Wentz's stat line would be 15 for 27 for 103 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Even with that incredible lucky break that goes his way, he still ends up with not a great stat line. Like, this was not, again, give credit to the Raiders defense. They played well, and you could also say this is kind of why you need to add more receivers to your receiving room, Indianapolis, but also this was not great on top of it from Carson Wentz.
That was the most Carson Wentz touchdown I've ever seen in my life.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I guess you can point to like the New England game and say, hey, he only had to throw 12 passes and they still won that game. But I don't think that's like set up for consistent success, honestly. I still think this team's good. I still think they're going to make the playoffs because they're going to beat the brakes off of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, I don't know what the future is with this guy, obviously, is the big question. And I don't know. Like, I think the numbers have been okay with him this year because, he's had less interceptions. But I also think that there's been a lot of opportunities for more interceptions that haven't happened.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there's a ceiling to this Colts team. It feels like, are you going to really win 4 games this way? But again, stranger things have happened, so it should be interesting. But yeah, let's. I think.
Who do you like next week? Put you on the spot real quick.
Okay.
Gun to your head. Who are you picking?
I'm picking the Colts to beat the Jaguars.
No. Raiders Chargers.
Raiders Chargers. Yeah. I mean, come on. I gotta ride with the Raiders, right? I gotta keep going with the team that I've built this channel off of being way too optimistic on.
Yeah, I mean this still was one day the official Las Vegas Raiders podcast. We might have to bring that back if they finally make the playoffs.
I like that. Yeah. I think. How about this? From this week until the Raiders are eliminated, we are the official Las Vegas Raiders podcast.
Always. But did you pick in our pick'em show? Did you pick the Colts or the Raiders?
I can't quite remember. We might have to. Who couldn't say?
Because I thought you said you picked the Raiders, but I could have thought you picked the other way.
No, I picked the Colts to win in the pick'em show. I'm saying my favorite bet was the Raiders +7.
Oh, because I was keeping track of my point total. We both had 3 points today.
Yeah, no, we both had the same amount of points. Next week we might have to do something. We might do something different next week because not every game matters. So maybe we'll only pick the ones that do matter and maybe start the betting round a week early. We'll talk about that after show and figure that out. But yeah. Anyways, let's move on. Let's go to another game that had serious playoff implications. Rams, Ravens here. This was kind of a bit of a last stand for the Ravens on this one. They weren't able to get it done. And again, so much injuries with the Ravens. The fact that they were even in this game was remarkable. And Matt Stafford, had some not great plays in this one, I would say, Kyle. But still, with that being said, what were your thoughts on this one?
Well, I mean, the first interception was basically thrown into 3 Ravens, and then one of them managed to catch it and run it back for a touchdown.
Well, the first one, I thought that was so. I tweeted this out before I saw the second one, and so it made me look worse because I tweeted out like, "Are we not going to blame Sean McVay for this bad play calling?" Because it was Chuck Clark jumped the route. It was man coverage, and he just jumped in front of the route. And he wasn't even covering the guy who Stafford was throwing to. Like, when that's the kind of stuff happens, I almost feel like you got to blame the play calling a little bit. The second one was not great, but we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, the Rams did a really good job coming back and winning this game. The Odell Beckham signing has panned out. I mean, I don't even care what happens the rest of the season. The fact that this guy keeps coming up with touchdowns in every game, especially a clutch touchdown in this one to keep them on top of their division standings, just a huge play from him. And it was a really nice play to on the sideline get that in. I mean, it just seemed like some of the guys they've got this year, whether you like Stafford or not, I thought he turned it around and ended up having a pretty good game despite the terrible start. Sony Michel has had nice numbers for them too. The defense has started to play pretty well. I mean, there's things to like about this Rams team. once Matt Stafford, if Matt Stafford can stop making mistakes.
Yeah, and I think with the second interception, a lot of people are bringing up he threw into triple coverage. It's like, well, Odell was beating two of those guys, so I'm not really mad about those two guys. It's just there was a safety deep, and I actually part of me was wondering if that was cover two, and Chuck Clark just made the read and got over there in time because we didn't get to see the all 22. So I think it's very real. There's a very real possibility that when I watch the all 22, I'll say, I understand why he made both those interceptions too. So that's kind of why I'm hesitant a little bit to criticize him too much. But yeah, good win for the Rams. Again, keeping in line with especially with the Cowboys loss, you will not beat a 4 seed, which that's what you're trying to avoid. You don't want to have to play Arizona, I would assume. And also they want to win their division on top of this. The flip side for the Ravens, like I said, kind of their last stand. Chuck Clark had a couple of picks. Mark Andrews got some stuff going. The offense just wasn't consistent enough. And I do think that if Lamar was healthy in this one, it might have made a difference. And Huntley wasn't even bad, but Lamar is a former MVP for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, they ran the ball well. They continue to do what they do. Mark Andrews continues to show, he's in the, he may be the third guy on that list, but he's top 3 tight end in the league in that conversation for one of the best. It sucks. And, I've said this the last couple of weeks on the Ravens because it's so hard to judge this team because this is not the team they wanted to put on the field in these final games of the season. So I'm not judging them too harshly one way or another. It takes a lot for them to get into the playoffs now. But it was a pretty good performance given the circumstances, and they just weren't able to get the win.
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't have too much to add. Want to just move on?
Yeah. All
right, let's go to Cardinals Cowboys here. Big win for the Cardinals, who I think we're reeling a bit, not looking so great. Is this, I guess, I'll ask this question because I always like these kind of questions. Does this tell us more? And I think it has this about the Cardinals last week as well. Does this tell us more about the Cardinals or the Cowboys?
Oh, man. Is I don't know an acceptable answer?
Sure.
Because honestly, it's like another thing, and I feel like I ripped the Cardinals for not being able to do anything against the Colts without their offensive line. The Cardinals were missing a ton of guys in this game, especially in the secondary. I felt like they were missing some guys on defense, and for this offense that we keep saying is one of the best in football, and I think statistically, again, the best in football. It looked pretty lackluster for most of the game. They started to come back in the fourth quarter and made a game of it, but still it wasn't enough to get it done. Kind of a rough game for the Cowboys in that regard, but at the same time, I think Arizona just showed that they had some fight in them.
Yeah, Arizona did. We saw some. Antoine Wesley had a couple of really good catches in this one, a couple of touchdowns as well, and that's kind of what it was. It's them finding a way, and really, to me, what I think what was the difference between this game and kind of the losses we've seen from Arizona is Kyler looked like MVP Kyler again.
Mm-hmm. And I thought the Cowboys, they didn't have a ton of deep shots in this game, but I thought Kyler just did a really good job of taking the place with it in front of him, using Zach Ertz a lot early in this game, using his running backs a lot in this game. And I just thought he did a really good job of that and doing a good job, getting the offense down the field. I don't think, did he even have rushing yards in this game? I know at one point he didn't. He ended up with 9 for 44, but, he didn't run the ball a whole lot and wasn't, as effective as he usually is, but still was able to get it done.
Yeah, and also speaking about running not being as effective as it usually is, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, 9 carries for 16 yards, Tony Pollard, 3 carries for 9 yards. So, that can tell you a good chunk of the story right there.
I mean, he hasn't quite been the same. Elliott hasn't looked good the last few weeks, right? I think that's fair to say.
I mean, I think you could argue Elliott hasn't looked spectacular the past few seasons.
Yeah. Well, he came out strong to start this year, and I think everyone was excited. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't quite panned out, later in the season, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm joking a little bit. 4.3 yards per carry over the year, 4.0 yards per carry last year. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, he's solid, but he's not. Ezekiel Elliott is not the tier 1 running back that he was at the beginning of his career.
Yeah. So this is potentially the 4-5 matchup, right?
Yeah, if assuming all the big 5 in the NFC win their final game, this would be a playoff matchup.
Do you know Kyler Murray's 9-0 at AT&T Stadium?
Oh, that's interesting. That's right. So
Yeah.
that's very funny. Yeah, we'll see if
Yeah.
that continues if they play each other.
Yeah, I mean, he went like 60-0 in high school and won every state championship there. So
Uh,
he's undefeated at AT&T. Maybe that helps him in round one.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'd rather him be undefeated than be him have lost every game there. So I guess I'll take it.
Yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is there any big takeaways from this game? I mean,
I have one here. I'll throw this
yes.
at you. Is the Cowboys defense overrated? Their numbers are very good, but I just feel like when I watch this team, I feel like I wonder how much of this is just the turnover luck that they've had this season.
I mean, I kind of didn't I say last week that this is the '09 Saints defense?
Yeah, but right. I mean, you said you kind of compared it to like, but maybe it'll just continue doing it. I think you and I are at least both on what the Cowboys are of their team that keeps getting turnovers. But I
Yeah.
mean, is that really what we want? Like, were the '09 Saints just a team that also had turnover luck in the playoffs as well?
I gotta look back. Yeah, they did in the Super Bowl, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, but I
Brett
don't
Favre
know.
throws interceptions to everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
You know, the well, and then Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was just this
And Super Bowl Peyton Manning also throws interceptions to everybody. So how much can we
yeah.
really sit here and say that this is that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting because I guess the question is, can they continue to be turnover dependent? And
Hmm.
I mean, this is the same thing we said about the Dolphins to start the year, right? Not to keep piling on the Dolphins this week, but I mean, you know, depending on turnovers for success is not a recipe for, continued success,
Hmm.
and you may have some good ball hawks back there, but I don't know how consistently you're going to be able to last with that. They're going to have some games where they're going to get torched, and then not to mention, this is kind of I'm out on this. I think you said last week you might see him as a Super Bowl contender. I still don't know if I have him there. I still think they're a tier below Tampa Bay. How is this team going to play Tampa Bay, Green Bay, and expect to get turnovers? Honestly,
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to remember now. I mean, I don't think I've ever said that this team is on the same tier as Tampa Bay and Green Bay. Maybe early on in the season I did, but I think I've always maintained that those are the two clear front runners in the NFC. But I mean, uh, I don't know. I agree. I don't see this team finding a way to get into the. I would be very shocked if they. I'd be more shocked if they play in the NFC Championship game than if they don't win a playoff game this year.
say that one more time.
I'd be more surprised if they play in the NFC Championship game than if they win zero playoff games in 2022.
I think so too. I think I
Hmm.
agree because I just imagine that if they win, I just don't see any scenario where I see them beat Green Bay. Honestly,
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, and listen, hey, maybe the Saints will play the Buccaneers and then they'll win again, and then you can avoid Green Bay. But even so, I don't know if you beating Arizona and then the Rams. It's a lot you have going for you. But again, there still is good stuff for the Cowboys. I'm not saying I don't think it can happen, but just
yeah.
might be a tough situation. Maybe should we talk about that? Like, was it a fumble at the end of the game? There was some controversy there.
I mean, we could talk about it, but I can tell you that I watched that thing about 25 times and I still have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
if you break it down to the very millisecond, like, how are you supposed to tell if the ball is actually out of his arm before his knee hits the ground? I mean, at
Hmm.
that point, like, if it takes me more than like 5 times watching it, I'm okay with saying no change.
Yeah, I think I agree. Let's move on now. All right, so I guess let's go to another one with again. We got a number of games to get to, and we're already at an hour, so long show here. We'll try to make sure Kyle doesn't have to stay up too late here. Let's go Falcons Bills. I think my biggest takeaway with this game was there's just a weird situation. One of the weirdest situations I've maybe ever seen in a football game with two teams fighting for their or one team fighting for their playoff lives of Matt Ryan rushes into the end zone. It gets ruled a touchdown, and he kind of gets hit late. And it's kind of one of those like, okay, I don't think it's an illegal hit or even like a dirty play, but I can understand why Matt Ryan took offense to it because like there was no way that hit was actually going to stop Matt Ryan from scoring a touchdown. And so he turns over and says something to a Bills player. They end up calling taunting, but okay, whatever. You scored a touchdown. You're still now down one score in the fourth quarter, about 6 minutes left. They end up reviewing it. He was down short of the touchdown. So you got a 15-yard penalty. They eventually did not score on this. Like, that could have been the difference. I mean, we did kind of see a team lose out on their playoff lives because of a taunting penalty. That's what happened.
Yeah. I don't know if they'd win the game, but yeah, I mean, it's a tough
But
situation to
that
see.
sunk them.
Yeah.
Once that happened, it was over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was pretty crazy. I was watching this game, and they competed like hell, man. I mean, they were, they got the early safety, obviously, after that crazy play to start the game. And then, they they came back after going down 14-2 after that. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting watching this team. They have playmakers. Kyle Pitts is going to be an absolute superstar. He only had 2 catches in this game, but one of those catches, reaching behind him to make the catch and then outrunning 3 guys down the sideline for like a 60-yard play, was insane. The Bills were a better team, though.
Yeah, sorry, my headphones cut out for a bit, so I didn't hear anything you just said. But so hopefully I don't, the audience got it. What were you talking about? I guess, have you talked about the Josh Allen interception stuff?
I didn't. I mentioned Kyle Pitts being a stud,
Okay,
and
cool.
that catch was insane. But
Right.
we can get into the Josh Allen stuff and the Bill stuff. I said the Bills are a better team.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. For the Bills now, for the team that, again, I agree. Like, Falcons had some good stuff. Good for them for making it this far. But this is kind of what the ceiling of this team was. For the Bills, I know Josh Allen's numbers look horrible. I still thought that he was actually pretty good. Like, he was fine in this one. I mean, his running ability was a big aspect that allowed them to win this football game. And 2 of those interceptions just weren't his fault. One was, but 2 of them were just fluky interceptions, and that's kind of how turnover luck goes, which is also part of why Atlanta was in this game for as long as they were as well.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but at the same time, like, I wouldn't characterize this as like a good game. I thought his numbers were better than this, like what he showed, but I didn't think it was that great of a game for him. Um, Obviously, I mean, if you're going to go 11 for 26, obviously that's not great passing efficiency. They ran the ball well in this game, something that we didn't quite expect. They were able to run the ball well and did enough that way to get to the 29 points that they had. I don't know. I keep watching this Bills team and say they should be like a little bit better than what they are, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've been inconsistent. And you're right. Like, Josh Allen had his downs in this one. There's no denying that. Although, again, I think that this is a very misleading stat line. But yeah, I think that's fair. I think that the inconsistencies of this team, because when we see them when they're on, they look so unbeatable. They haven't done that consistently.
Yeah. I guess the other thing too I'll say about Allen, I mean, I don't want to wish injury on anybody, obviously, but this guy's going to take a horrible hit.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he's so reckless with his body, and
Hmm.
sooner or later these defenders, because he's so big, are just going to take the Gronk treatment of starting to hit him low. And
Hmm.
some of the hits he takes, I think, are insane, honestly. And if I were a Bills coach, I know you like him being aggressive, but he's even going in there and trying to like take block on reverse plays. And I'm just
Uh-huh.
like, what are you doing, man? Like
Yeah.
your team's entire hope rests on you.
He can't help himself. Some
I
guys, you
know,
can't do it. Can't
but
not do it.
if he busts his knee in January, it loses this season for the Bills and it loses next season for the Bills. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. Let's move on. Let's go to, so we have, I'm trying to get to all the ones that had implications, and then we can get into some of the other ones. Let's go Texans Niners here. Why don't we? I thought Trey Lance played pretty good in this one. I know it was just against Houston, but I thought his numbers are maybe a bit misleading. He has over 10 yards per attempt. I don't know if it was that good, but I thought he played pretty solid in this one. And the 49ers managed to stay alive, and they're still in a playoff spot if either, again, as we talked about, either the Saints lose or the 49ers win next week, and they will be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was really impressed with him in this game, especially,
Hmm.
spot start. I think it was his second start of the season, basically. And not to mention, he had an interception, which I understood it looked like I understood what he was trying to do, just get it over the guy, and he didn't
Hmm.
get it over the guy, and it was picked. So, it wasn't a great throw, but
Hmm.
the way he responded to it and kind of played really well down the stretch, I thought was impressive. I think he ended up with 3 touchdowns in this game, or 2.
He
No, it
had
was
two
3.
touchdowns. Yeah.
2 touchdowns. Okay, yeah. So I thought he just responded and played really well in this game. And I mean, I don't know. Does it look that much different for the 49ers for you? I guess that's the question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for one thing, you're playing Houston, so that does
Yeah.
need to be factored into this equation. And he also had, I mean, he should have had an interception at the end of the half, which was just a dumb decision by him. It was, you're already in field goal range, just trying to get a little bit more yards, make it easier. It's covered well, and for whatever reason, he throws it directly to the defensive back who just dropped it, and then Brandon Ayuk caught it and got out of bounds. So that was like the weird thing. But like that should have been an interception. And he also had another one where a linebacker had a chance at the interception as well and wasn't. So again, like I said, I don't know if the numbers totally back up how he played. I also did think he played very well. I think where I would say is I would still rather look at the full sample size of what I've seen from Jimmy G and what I've seen from Trey Lance this season, or even in just this game. Give me a healthy Jimmy G over a healthy Trey Lance. Give me Trey Lance over a Garoppolo who isn't 100%.
Man, the way you set that up was Max Kellerman-esque. You're almost like, I want Iguodala. No, I'm just kidding. But that was good. I mean, I think I agree with you though. And I've been on here saying that I think Jimmy G's actually been pretty good this year up until the last week, basically. I think I agree. I do think Lance adds a little bit more dynamism, I guess, to this team, but a little more consistency, I think, from Jimmy G makes it go a long way. We'll see what happens with that, though, going forward. The Texans, I guess, played in this game, too. How much do you want to get into that?
I'd be fine if we just didn't even talk about them, to be honest. But I mean, we probably should mention them a little bit. Maybe not the best for the Mills Mafia, maybe taking a hit here.
He had some really good throws in this game.
He had one just absurd, he's good for one or two just absurd plays a game.
Yeah. Overall, not as consistent as you'd like it.
No.
But I thought he had some really good throws in this game. Some really nice stuff. It's a talent deficient team though, so it's you're gonna have some bad performances.
Yeah, and one last thing about the 49ers before we move on. I guess two last things. One, Elijah Mitchell, good job. Also, for Trey Lance, I think that the last thing I would say is, what was I going to say? I forgot what I said. So I guess, I got it. I found it. We're good. We're back. Not the most difficult offense to have to run. So that's kind of the nice thing as well is, also another thing I wanted to bring up. They basically just ran the classic bootleg against zone coverage where you have three routes all going to one side of the field. They basically just ran that play every play against Houston. So I don't know if that was something they saw in Houston. Part of me speculated, does Trey Lance not really have a great understanding of the entire playbook? So they ran one play a lot. That was a lot of what they did. It's already something they do a lot, but that was a good chunk of where his yards came from.
Yeah, I think they were just comfortable keeping him in that spot. And maybe he was just comfortable going in that spot early in this, his second start. So I think he was good. I think there's things to build off of. And I mean, this is kind of what Kyle Shanahan wants. He wants a guy that's easy to scheme run stuff for because it just adds so much more to his offense and what he does.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. So let's do the Broncos Chargers. Let's go here, Kyle. Defend your take. You picked the Broncos to beat the Chargers in this one. You picked Drew Lock, and it came back to bite you.
Yeah, and I mean, he just clearly wasn't good enough in this game. I even think, once again, Lock continues to do this to me. I have 7 good throws, and it's I don't think a ton of guys in the league can make that throw. But he also has 3 throws or something that's wow, I think he's the worst at making that throw in the game. So I didn't think his numbers were terrible.
His numbers are he's almost got 10 yards per attempt. He's only 5 yards away from 10 yards per attempt.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers weren't actually terrible. I think a lot of that had to do with Noah Fant. Noah Fant had 3 catches in this game where he just took off for 20 yards downfield after it, and it's the Chargers forgot how to tackle. The 2 things that happened in this game was all of a sudden now against this team, the Chargers decided to defend the run, and it's the Broncos, I thought at times they covered well, but it's they looked at the tape and said, oh, they don't throw to Austin Eckler out of the backfield ever. So let's just not worry about it. Right. And he only had 3 catches in this game, but it was dump offs that he just went off for. And Justin Jackson had another 3 that did that. So kind of a weird game for the Broncos. I feel this is another group where it's I keep watching this defense and I feel it should be a lot better than what it is. But it's every time you believe in this defense, it's 2 or 3 big mistakes that you just feel stupid about.
Yeah, the one I agree. I thought Herbert played really well in this one too. I thought that
Yeah.
everyone's now jumping on the Joe Burrow train, and for a good reason. But Herbert I thought had a very good game in this one on as well. So you're throwing that in there, which helps. And this is kind of the reality is it's just Justin Herbert can do this, and we keep talking about the kind of the team goes when Herbert goes, and Herbert played well in this one.
Yeah. No, I thought he did a really good job. He has some jaw-dropping throws in him. That touchdown pass to Mike Williams was really nice.
Hmm.
And he does some good stuff. So, they should have won last week. That would have put them in the playoffs. Basically, I think it would have clinched them a spot. Now they got to fight for their playoff lives against the Raiders.
Yeah. So okay, so let me put you on the spot then, because you did this when we talked about the Raiders. So who's going to win, Raiders or Chargers?
Uh, well, this is back to being the official Las Vegas Raiders podcast.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I feel like unless the Raiders are willing to come off the cover 3, I don't know if I can pick them to beat the Chargers.
Yeah. Last time, which was earlier on in the season, it was the fifth game of the year. The Chargers did beat the Raiders 28-14. But it's a new Raiders team. Maybe not for the better, but that's besides the point. Yeah, it should be an interesting final game with them. Let's move on. Not a ton of intrigue left, but there's still a couple of games. The Eagles survived to beat the Washington football team, aka the Balls here. Kyle, listen, this is a great season for the Eagles, I think is what we should say, right? They completely overperformed expectations. They might have been the team that overperformed expectations the most to me. I thought they were going to be a bottom 3 team. They're now in the playoffs. They've clinched a spot here. Incredible stuff from them to find a way. And Rodney McLeod, how am I saying his name? I forgot how to say his name, but he, with the clinching interception, which was very cool. Just a great win for the Eagles.
Yeah, it was really good for them. And like you said, this was a team that basically had no expectations. They had this really weird cap setup that they were basically, what was it? They were basically operating with $30 million less than everybody else to try and save cap costs or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just managed to kind of put it together. They had some good things. Like basically, if it stayed healthy, this offensive line was going to be decent. And it's been healthy and pretty good. This defensive line was going to be pretty good. And I was pretty surprised because I thought at one point they might try and trade some of these older pieces and say, okay, we'll rebuild for the future. They stuck with it and said, we're keeping these guys. They ended up being pretty good on that spot. I thought that they developed a running game through all this, and I thought it paid off in the end. And this is a pretty good team going to the playoffs. I'm not picking them to win any games in the playoffs, but this is a successful year for them.
Yeah, and I'll say this, last year we saw Chicago get in the playoffs, and it kind of was like, okay, well, they're a playoff team, but they're not really a playoff team. I'll say this, Eagles, they feel like a playoff team. I don't think they feel like a playoff win team, but I'll say I feel like this makes sense. The Eagles playing in the wild card weekend. That checks out to me.
Yeah, I'm happy because I'd rather see this team than New Orleans. Honestly,
Yeah,
I'm not watching New Orleans.
Right. Yeah, we really need someone help us out, get New Orleans out of the playoffs next week.
So maybe San Francisco can pull off the upset. We'll see. But good win for Philadelphia. I thought they played well in this game at times. Defense played pretty well, I thought, overall, even though, Washington made this a little interesting with Jarrett Patterson coming up with some big plays and Terry McLaurin having, his usual, good performance too.
Yeah, I believe if I remember correctly, Washington led 10-0 in both of the games they played against Philadelphia and still managed to lose both. So interesting stuff there. But yeah, cool. I don't have anything to add for Washington. You want to talk about them at all? Hey, Terry McLaurin's good. I don't know what else to say.
McLaurin's good. Patterson looks like a decent backup running back to Gibson. Taylor Heinicke still does not look like a starting quarterback in this league.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Fair as well. Should be fun to see the Eagles in the postseason. They're back. 4 games left. Let's go with the last one that had serious playoff implications before we get to your team. I think this is the latest we've gotten into the Patriots. But first, let's go Panthers, Saints. This New Orleans team is going to make the playoffs, aren't they? I know we keep saying someone help us out. They're going to find a way to do this. This is happening as they beat the Panthers 18-10 here.
Oh my god, this game! I had to turn this game off. I had to walk the dogs. I was just like, what are we doing here? It was unwatchable at times. I don't know if Marquez Callaway is good or not. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like I watch him and he'll have like 3 really nice plays, and then he'll have
Uh-huh.
like 2 horrible drops.
Right.
Um, and it, I don't know, like he's okay. But I just keep watching this team, and it's like, oh man, there's really nothing to get excited about except for like Cameron Jordan, who's
Uh-huh.
amazing once again. 3.5 sacks in this game.
Mhm.
Insane performance for him. Getting after the great Sam Darnold, who was sacked 7 times.
The great Sam Darnold, yeah, yeah. And for Jordan, he hasn't had his best season. People, were wondering, is he going to get up to like 10 sacks this year? But this game certainly helps with that. Playing the Panthers' offensive line, that is, has to be mentioned. But still, good stuff. And I think there is stuff to get excited about with the Saints. Like their defense is a lot of fun, and they're the kind of defense I like, where it's like I think there's an edge to this defense, which I always find fun. I think that's what I want in a defense, although you're not allowed to talk to people anymore in football, which is stupid. But still, I like that stuff. And like, hey, like Taysom Hill wasn't horrible in this one either. So if you get an okay Taysom Hill performance, like again, this is a team that beat Tampa Bay. Like this is a team that can do things. They beat Tampa Bay twice, and they didn't have Winston for either game. So there is still some stuff that this team can do. But I agree, it's maybe not necessarily the most flashy brand of football.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, the defense is good, and like you said, attitude. Any team with CJ Garner Johnson is going to have some level of attitude. I mean,
Uh,
that guy's insane.
mhm. And how
Literally,
crazy is it
not like
too?
insanely good, just literally insane.
Yeah,
Um,
like how crazy is it too? Like Quan Alexander is like the sixth most notable like personality on
mhm.
this defense. Like that's how crazy they are.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, it really is. And I mean, I was watching this game, and it's like Demario Davis has a lineup with DJ Moore, and he
Hmm.
locks him up on a play and forces an
Right.
incomplete pass. And it's like,
Hmm.
how many linebackers in the league could actually do that? And he just does it consistently with this team. They cover really well. They're fast. Everybody on this team's fast, and they have 4 defensive linemen who can all get after the quarterback. So yeah, I mean, this defense is good. This offense just makes me want to stab myself in the eyeballs.
Right. I mean that's just the issue. Is again, I do think there is a ceiling on this team, but yeah, they're still interesting. I mean, uh, Sam Darnold started off 8 for 8, and after that, he just like was such a Sam Darnold performance after that point.
A lot of promise filled with just disappointment.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's Sam Darnold's career to a T was this football game.
yeah, I mean, his 2 leading receivers in this game were running backs
Mhm.
by targets. Chuba Hubbard had 4 targets. Amir Abdullah had 4 targets.
Mhm.
I didn't even
Right.
realize Amir Abdullah was still in the league. I thought he went back to Nebraska to try to get some more eligibility.
Yeah. Is that how that works?
Nah, it's definitely not allowed, but I thought he would try.
Why not? Yeah, players are getting played now. Yeah, go full. Let the NCAA be a complete minor league system.
Yeah, I mean, might as
Get like
well.
Adrian Peterson back there.
Back at Oklahoma, they'd probably take him. So
Yeah. All right. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to your team. Late in the show, beating the Jaguars 50-10, which sounds like a made-up score. I swear that was the actual score on the scoreboard when the clock's hit 0 here. Kyle, I'll let you take the floor for your team. How are you feeling after this one?
Um, well, they had to punt once, so this game was kind of a disappointment.
Uh huh.
Um, I mean, this was a get right game. I'm not taking a whole lot of basically. Not only was this the Jaguars, it was the Jaguars B team basically. Like
Uh
at one
huh.
point, they had like 30 guys eligible to play. Um, I just don't think Roger Goodell actually cared about having to postpone a Jaguars game. Like I think he looked at it and said, "Hey, Jaguars having to play Tuesday does nothing for us."
Hmm.
So
Right.
uh, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. It was crazy that I mean, this Jaguars team's horrible, literally horrible. Like Laquan Treadwell actually looked good on this team, and I'm like, you know what? He might stick it on this team for a few years. But the rest of this team, like Christian Wilkerson, was just like left alone for like a 30-yard touchdown. Like 2 guys been on a bubble screen, and Christian Wilkerson's just walking down the field. Um, so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good performance from the Jaguars. The Patriots did exactly what they needed to do in this game, which was blow this team out because they're way better than them. And I was pleased with it because I think this offense kind of needed to get right, and this was kind of the game that you need to get right with. Playing the Jaguars is always a good thing for your offense, and they look good. So I feel good about it. I'm not taking a whole lot away from it, except for Patriots. 2 50-point games this season, the rest of the NFL too. Are we truly an offensive juggernaut? People are asking.
Yeah, people are asking. Well, I mean, it all comes down to Kyle. Guess who is the league leader in EPA per play of the season?
Let's see. I'm assuming it's a Patriot based off this.
Mm-hmm.
EPA offense, I'm assuming.
Yeah, quarterback.
Quarterback, Mac Jones.
No, Hoyer the Destroyer, of course,
wow.
with his 7 yard, 16 plays or whatever. He's also played in both games where they've scored 50 points. Coincidence? I think not. I think that this is the Hoyer the Destroyer continues his reign. Also, no way you'll guess this, but guess who is number 2 on this list? Again, of no minimum snaps, which completely confuses everybody.
If Hoyer's 1, then number 2's got to be like, oh crap, I don't know. I was gonna say Jordan Love, but he played a whole game, so it's not going to be him. Who is it?
Nathan Peterman, of course.
What is Nathan Peterman's season stats?
He has one play where his EPA per play was half a point, so he is number 2. CJ Beathard with 4 snaps. Number 3, Gardner Minshew at 4 with 34 snaps. So there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I thought the Patriots offense looked good. I thought the defense obviously looked good. And Trevor Lawrence was bad up until the last drive where he got a garbage touchdown.
I'll ask this. Hey, that's better than you've been done past couple months. I think I've asked this last week too. Is it time to be a little bit concerned about Trevor Lawrence or no? Is it just the team around him? Well, let's just evaluate it next year.
I'm evaluating it next year. Once again, like Laquan Treadwell had like 2 or 3 plays in this game, and that was a miracle. He had 2 ridiculous throws in this game. Like he had one that he basically lofted up to Treadwell. Now, granted, Mills didn't turn around on the play, but he dropped it into Treadwell's arms on that one. And then he had another one where he was rolling right like 10 yards in the backfield and just threw it off his back foot, and it went right over J.C. Jackson for a completion for like 25 yards. And it's just like, okay, that's some good stuff there. The rest of it was not so good, but like, I don't know. Let him get like if McDaniels is his coach next year, I feel pretty good about the Jaguars, honestly. Not like competing next year, but I think that this could be a decent team with like a real head coach and coaching staff.
Yeah. What about Byron Leftwich?
I mean, I think it's a step up, but I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Sure,
like
that's
I don't
fair.
I don't know how to evaluate Leftwich. You know.
I'll say this: it's a meme on the Buccaneers subreddit of they keep saying, they keep saying, "Oh yes, Jaguars, he'll certainly win you a Super Bowl soon. Make sure that you hire him away from us."
Yeah, like I don't know how to evaluate him, but I think I don't think he'd be terrible.
Yes. Also, the great overlap 618 back in the chat here at 124 on the East Coast. Sound the alarm, boys. Ain't no Pats, Bucks, Super Bowl, no Penguin suit, no sky high ratings. 2022 is not starting off well or all. I believe that means at all is the correct pronunciation there. So yeah, I mean, I think again, I agree, but I want to keep asking it because it is a narrative that's out there. Although it is disappointing. I mean, there was a stretch, like for like a 3-game stretch where it's like, hey, look at Lawrence. Look at what he's doing. He's building. And then that just, I think the team around him kind of collapsed as he was starting to grow. So Jacksonville, not doing great for his development.
No, not at all. I'm going to give him some time. We'll see how it goes. Long way to go, obviously, is the big thing. As Chris Collinsworth said about Kellen Mond after 3 passes.
Exactly. All right. 2 games left. Not very exciting, either one. The Lions, Seahawks, and the one we'll talk about next is the Giants, Bears here. I guess the thing we have to talk about for this is Giants ending the day with -10 passing yards on the day. Truly a remarkable feat by the Giants.
Like, I don't even know how you do that. Like, I know you got sacked 4 times, so that the net yards was -10, but like, like holy shit, like you couldn't get 40 yards passing,
right? Correct. They could not.
Mind-blowing.
Well,
Absolutely
against the
crazy.
vaunted Bears defense, that's been so dominant this year, it's kind of understandable.
Yeah, I mean, that coverage unit's been among the best in the league all year.
Uh,
No, it hasn't actually. It's been terrible. So, I mean, oh man, this is a pathetic team. So the best part about this was the post-game press conference. Did you hear about this?
no, what happened?
So Joe Judge went on like I didn't have the full transcript in front of me, but I heard about this that he went on like a you know swearing a lot tirade basically about how the team's not competing, all this kind of stuff, and he mentioned about the coaching staff he was on in 2018. He was let's go. I have it here word for word. Lessons I've learned. I'll tell you right now. All right. In 2018, I was part of a team who halfway through the season, we were all pretty convinced we were getting fired. We didn't think we were going to make the playoffs, had no concept of anything that was coming. We just knew we were going to keep showing up and improving week after week. And on the outside, we were all terrible. We didn't care about any of that noise on the outside. We didn't care about it at all. What did we care about on the inside? What were we doing? Guys showed up, they worked, they fought, they worked. We improved enough as a team, put things together, make a run, ended up winning the championship. That is the 2018 New England Patriots that he was on the coaching staff
Yeah.
of. That team started 7-2, 9-3 actually to start the year. They ended the year 2-2 in the final 4 weeks of the season before winning the Super Bowl. But apparently nobody had any concept of what they were doing, and everyone was concerned about job security on the 2018 Patriots.
Wasn't this, I believe, Julian Edelman famously, like after the Super Bowl, said bet against us and was hilariously and was mocked for this. Like, what are you talking about? You're the New England Patriots. Like, you're coming off of like multiple Super Bowl wins in recent memory. That this was the Miami Miracle year, right? If I'm remembering this correctly, this was just an absurd comparison, comparing a team that literally won a Super Bowl to one of the worst teams we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah. I got to say, not a lot of similarities between Mike Glennon and Tom Brady. Not a whole lot.
Not quite so. Mike Glennon, clearly the better player. Mike Glennon, an EPA of minus 31.4 in this one. He had a bigger impact in this game than Jamar Chase did in the Bengals game, amazingly.
That's something, you know.
Yeah. His expected completion percentage in this one, 30 points lower than negative 30.7.
Yeah. I didn't even think the Bears were that good in this game.
No, they weren't.
They didn't run the ball very well. Andy Dalton, under 5 yards per attempt in the Gabbard zone. And yet it looked like they blew the brakes off of the Giants.
Yeah, it's funny. You look at like Andy Dalton's stat. Like he had a negative EPA game as well, but like they still beat a team by 26. That's got to be the biggest point differential from a quarterback who had a negative EPA per play in quite some time.
Yeah. I watched a little bit of this and said, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Who would have thought Daniel Jones was keeping this all together? And also, oh my God, a $49.99 super chat by Overlap 618. Thank you so much for this.
Yes,
can we please go into overtime special edition? I'm having major anxiety right now. We have to discuss the AB loss and how I'm going to miss the penguin suit. This was going to be the highlight of 2022. This is not good at all. Well, I believe Kyle has gone on record saying that he will wear a penguin suit if the Buccaneers do not win the Super Bowl. Is that correct, Kyle?
That is not correct.
I think you have to give a penguin suit team.
A penguin suit team. So if they win the Super Bowl, I guess I'll pick my team then. If the Patriots win the Super Bowl, I'll wear a penguin suit.
All right, here we go. Kyle also on record. Overlap. You get 2 chances here and Kyle, I will personally purchase the penguin suit for you to make this happen.
There you go. That is my gift to Overlap. Thank you for the donations to the podcast. I do have to say though, you said into overtime special edition. We're on an hour 30 of this podcast. We are in overtime special edition. We are killing the game right now.
I think my favorite running gag of this is that despite the fact that we could basically consistently do an hour and a half, we still in our heads think this is an hour-long podcast.
The recaps, I'm just convinced, we're going to have a 3-hour recap one of these days.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we haven't gotten to 2 hours yet, have we? I don't believe we have.
Not all the way in the 2 hours. We've come close a few times.
Yeah, I know we've gotten at least like an hour and 45.
Yeah. Someone's going to one of these days we're going to be on at like 2 a.m. and someone's just going to come into the chat and say, will you stop talking about locks on the Panama Canal already? We're trying to get through the games and go to bed.
Yeah, no Drew Locks on the Panama Canal. Although Drew Lock might be on the Panama Canal in a couple of weeks.
He could be working there. Yeah, I guess so. Needs a job.
All right. Let's move on. Final game of this schedule. Lions, Seahawks. I guess I'll say this. If this, it's nice that Russell Wilson was able to get this performance, that they were able to have this happen. This might be Russell Wilson's last game in Seattle, so it'd be cool if they get this. That kind of stuff is nice. If you're a Seahawks fan, you're probably like, this was fun. Obviously, you want better, and obviously, you're always going to win when Tim Boyle was on the other side. But still, at least there was some nice stuff there for Seattle.
Yeah. He was really good in this game. Russell Wilson was very good. Very accurate with the ball. I thought he did a good job getting his guys. Metcalf and Lockett got involved, obviously. He was good. He was playing the Lions. And then it's just crazy that after all these years, this Rashad Penny pick is now working out just for the last few games of the season when they're already out of the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a weird game. Like, I don't know. Like, it just seemed like this was, I didn't even realize they scored 50 until after the game was over, And I was just watching this game and it's like, oh, wait, they got that many points.
Right.
And it just seemed like Tim Boyle was just doing everything to give him the ball back, basically. And that's basically where it happened. And I thought Wilson played well. The Seahawks looked a lot better this week than they had in previous weeks. That's all there really is to it.
Yeah. We also, hey, Amon-Ra St. Brown's looking good.
Very good. He looks like, he's pretty legit. Another good rookie wide receiver. 2 touchdowns in this game. Never a good option when he's 11 yards off your leading rusher. But, not a whole lot going well for the Lions in this game, besides St. Brown, who looks like a legit player.
Yeah, so you got that going.
Taylor Decker touchdown, too. That was cool.
Yeah, sure. All right. So I don't have anything else to add. That is the week. Kyle, we could do this on air if we want. Why not? Let the audience be here. I was thinking for the final game, for the final week, what we could do for the Pick'em show next week is instead of doing just where we pick every game, maybe we'll do a lightning round where we talk about the games that don't have any implications. But I like on the last podcast to mainly just talk about the games that have implications. And I think what we could do is we could do sort of a betting round to start heading into, because, the playoffs, we do betting rounds in the regular season. I think for the last week, we could just do a betting round where the way it works is for every game, you can choose to either do it regular, where you either get a point if you lose or no point if you get it correctly. And then but you can also choose to double up on every single game if you want to. You get 2 points if you lose, but you take a point off your point total if you get it correctly. How do you like that idea?
That sounds good to me. You're going to have to re-say these rules to me again.
Sure, that's fine.
Because I'm going to forget. But that does sound good to me. We can make it a little more interesting. And, some of these last games are going to be really tough to judge because guys aren't going to play. So it's like,
right. Well, and that's kind of my logic too. Is like we're lopping off the games that don't matter. So like Washington Giants, like we won't even do that one, and we'll off air decide which ones are the ones that don't matter, which ones the ones that do. And then I think the way we do it is still have a lock of the week, but now that one can become bigger as well. Maybe we can make that 3 points and 3 points for the last game of the season. Why not?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let's go ahead, and that's going to be a Thursday instead of Wednesday this week, right?
Correct. I meant to mention that at the beginning of the show, but yes, for everyone, Thursday as opposed to Wednesday. So doing it a day later. So be on the lookout for that. Kyle, let them know where they can find us before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. And then make sure to follow the account page that's at On The Sideline JK. That is at On The Sideline JK.
Yes. Also, if you like audio only versions, you can check that out anywhere you get your podcast. That should be available. Also, if you discovered us on an audio only version, check out the YouTube channel, Jackson Cougar Sports. I try to make good content. Sometimes I succeed. So check that out. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out here?
Hopefully the Browns can beat the Steelers so we can just, make it a
Yeah.
little easier for us playoff scenarios wise.
Yeah. Kill them. That would be nice. Also, super chat. Ray says, Lance, okay, I'm sorry. Lance takes weak Jimmy throws, pick worthy throws that are dropped all the time to Lance greater than Jimmy G. I'm not sure if I fully am following there, Kyle. Are you aware of this? What's
I
going
think
on?
he's saying he'd rather have Trey Lance because Jimmy Garoppolo has more pick worthy plays that don't go for interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Is basically what he's trying to say. So
Okay.
I get it. Like, listen,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna fight to the death for Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, if you don't
Right.
want Jimmy Garoppolo as your starting quarterback, I don't blame you.
Well, and even here's something. The logic could be, hey, maybe Trey Lance just has a higher ceiling, and if we're trying to win a
Yeah.
Super Bowl here, are we going to do it with Garoppolo with a team that isn't as good as the team that went to the Super Bowl? Like maybe let's throw Jimmy in there and just hope for the high ceiling.
Maybe they could
Or
sign Sean
Lance,
Mannion and be the safe pick.
What was that?
Maybe they could sign Sean Mannion and that would be the safe pick.
There you go. Yeah, like that move. All right. Again, thank you to everyone. Appreciate you stay, especially people. God bless everyone staying up till 1:30 on the East Coast to listen to the silliness that we do here on this show. So again, do appreciate it. And of course, until next time on Thursday. See you later, alligator.
Peace.